My dear students, parents, teachers, and principals of all our council affiliated schools across India and abroad, welcome to this CISCE virtual learning series. It is the council's humble gesture and initiative to reach out to our students through our exclusive YouTube channel using StreamYard. We are in the 6th month of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the crisis does not seem to relent anytime soon. Given that all schools are closed, the Council has decided to proactively involve its students in some teaching learning activity through this initiative. While many schools have been doing excellent work in conducting online classes for its students, yet there are some schools which have not been able to do the same for their students. The Council is concerned about these students, especially those at the ICSE and ISE level. Therefore, the Council has arranged for subject experts for all the major subjects at the ICSE and ISE levels to address students' concerns and to suitably guide them in these subjects. These lessons can be viewed exclusively on the CISCE YouTube channel. I request all our students to be attentive and participate actively in these interactive live lessons. I am confident that our subject experts will be able to assist and motivate each one of you. Lastly, I would like to place on record my most sincere gratitude to Mr. Francis Joseph for coordinating with our research division and examination sections to make this possible. We plan to continue this series for as long as we can so that the Council can reach out to our teaching community in general and to our students in particular. Thank you and happy learning.
A very good afternoon, children. I welcome you back to the second session of this chapter, recursion. In the first chapter, if you have gone through it, we have discussed the following points, and I am revising it in short because there may be some students who are viewing this for the first time. You can anyway go to the details of this in my previous session. Now, to have a revise of the previous session, what we have discussed earlier, I have discussed the following points. The first point was definition of recursion. Definition of recursion means recurring, that is a repetitive process, a recursive process, something calling onto itself. That if you're doing some work again and again and again, it is an iteration or a recursion. So you have to make it clear whether it is an iteration or recursion. Now, how do you differentiate this? So there is a second clause which I have explained over there, second point, that is difference between iteration and recursion. So how can you judge whether the process is an iteration process or a recursive process? Iteration process will require the same memory and it will require the same variables which you have already used. Recursion uses a different memory for each call, and either you may have the same thing or you may put it with a different variables. Now this is a practical difference between your iteration and recursion. Now in terms of memory and time, iteration uses very less memory because it is using only one block, whereas recursion uses more memory because every time you recur, a new memory is opened. So if you recur the function 20 times, then 20 memories are opened. So your memory consumption is more in your recursion, and iteration it is less. Now the second aspect of this difference is iteration takes less time to execute because you're using in the same memory, so it keeps on going fast and fast. Whereas recursion, it is a slow process because you are opening so many memories in a stack, and once the base case or the main final case reaches, then it keeps on removing the stack memory, and then it comes to the last. So it is a time consuming. So what you see in these two things of iteration and recursion, iteration requires less memory, recursion requires more memory. Iteration requires speed is very fast, whereas in recursion the speed is very slow. It is a slow process and this is a fast process. So later on we will discuss in the programming part, and then I will tell you how it is done. The third aspect which we have discussed yesterday was in the first session was the types of recursion. Recursions can be of two types. Either it can be a direct recursion or it can be an indirect recursion. Direct recursion is something, a recursive function calling itself in its own body. That means if a function is declared and within the body of the function you're calling its own function, then it is a direct recursion. That is something calling onto itself. Now what is an indirect recursion? Indirect recursion means a function is calling another function, and what is the work of the other function? Calling the previous function. So if A is calling B and the function B is calling A, indirectly A is calling A. So it is an indirect recursion. Children, you have to make it clear over there, in indirect recursion, both the functions must be defined before you call this. That is function A as well as function B. Both has to be defined. So this is the practical difference between your direct and indirect recursion. Now, the fourth point which we have discussed was recursive method or its parts or cases. There are only two parts in a recursive method. There are only two parts. One is the base case and one is the recursive case. There is no other part in a recursive method. That is why this chapter, if you understand both these cases, it becomes very clear. So any problem, whatever you get problem solved by recursive, means you have to understand two things. What is the base case of that problem? And the second thing, what is the recursive case of that problem? So these are the two things. Now what is the base case? As I explained, if you want in details, you can go to the previous session. Base case is a pre-known value. That means you actually know the value before you start any process or any calculation. You know it, that this is there. So for a factorial of any number which is less than 2 is 1. Log 10 is 1. Then anything raised to the power 0 is 1. So these are some of the known cases which you already know it. So these are known as the base cases. Now what is a base case required for? Why do we need a base case in a recursive method? If you are calling the function again and again and again, somewhere it has to stop, it has to terminate. Now who is responsible for terminating the function? It is the base case. So without the base case, the function will be continuing and it will never stop. So that is the requirement of your base case. Now coming to the second case, that is your recursive case. Recursive case is the repetitive case, means what you want to do further, whether you want to call the function again or not. If you want to call the function again, you want to use the same variable or you are giving a different value to it. You can give the same value, different value, anything to it. So when you call back the function again, that process is known as a recursive case. So we have got two cases, base case and recursive case. Classifying on this base case and recursive case, we have got further classifications of this. That is classifications of recursive methods which we had used it in the previous session. There are 4 classifications. Children, these are very important because these 4 classifications you can do by any one of them. Finite, infinite, augmented and tail. Finite recursion. A finite recursion is a recursion which terminates. or which halts, means it has got a finite number of steps or recursive cases. So what is a finite recursion? A recursive function having a base case, one or more base cases, but the second point over here is and is reachable or attainable. It doesn't mean that if a recursive function has a base case, so naturally it will stop. No. It has to go to the base case, that is, it has to reach the base case and it should be attaining the base case. Once it reaches or attains the base case, then only it is known as a finite recursion which terminates. Otherwise, it is not a finite recursion. The second one is infinite, just the opposite of finite. Infinite recursion is a never-ending process, never-ending recursion. Now, how does this happen? Only on two cases. Either you don't supply a base case or you don't mention a base case, then it will go as infinite because there is no one to stop it. There is no case to stop it. So it will keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. But if I have a base case, second point is if I have a base case and the base case is not reachable, means I'm keeping a base case but I'm not moving to that base case, I'm moving against the base case, or I'm not attaining the base case. In such cases, the recursive function will go as infinite. So two things are there: finite having a base case and is reachable, infinite having no base case or base case is not reachable. Now coming to the third and fourth one, they are also classifications which are there. Augmented recursion. This term actually is from the head and tail. We say it as head recursion and tail recursion. Head recursion is on the top, tail recursion is at the bottom. So augmented recursion is just like a head recursion, where in a recursive process, the first statement is a recursive statement, followed by your processing. So what happens in augmented? That the process which has to be followed after the recursive case has been halted or pushed back into the stack. So it is stacked over there. Then again function is called, the process is again stacked on top of it. Again the function is called, again it is stacked on top of it. Now when the base case comes, then the last stacked process will be the first to be executed. The second stacked case will be the second to be executed, and so on. So augmented or your head recursion is your LIFO method. LIFO means last memory. Naturally, this recursion works on LIFO. It's a stack which is last memory opened will be the first memory to be closed. Whether the memory holds anything to be done or it doesn't hold, but the memory will be there. Now coming to the last classification of this is the tail recursion. Tail recursion is, as I told you, head and tail. Tail recursion means the recursive process will be the last. So what happens? The process is performed, and then after completing the process, either you can pass the answer of the process to the recursive or you can give any value to it. So the last statement in the recursive body is your recursive function over the recursive case. So that is called a tail. So the position of the recursive, that is you're returning the function again. If you're returning before the process begins or you're returning the process after the process is over. So in both cases, memory is stacked, but with some work or without some work. In augmented, work is left out in the stack. In tail, no work is left out. So only the memories have to be closed, which you have done. So I hope that this is your thing, what I have covered in session 1. So this is just a recap of what we have done in session 1. Now we will move on because we have got this concept used in different programs. So I'll take up some programs one by one, few programs, so that you can understand and make it clear. The first program which I have chosen was to find the power of a number, that is a raised to the power b. A raised to the power b. It's a very good example because we have got two base cases in it. One is we know that any number to the power 0 is 1 or any number to the power 1 is itself. We have got two base cases in this. Either you can use both or you can use one. Now let's see the algorithm of this a raised to the power b. Suppose I take an example. If someone asks you, what is 5 to the power 3? Don't say 125 immediately. What is 5 to the power 3? That I can say that what is 5 to the power 3 is 5 multiplied by 5 to the power 2. That is, 5 into 5 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 5 to the power 2. Now this is a witty answer. Like, now when you have this 5 into 5 to the power 2, first calculate what is 5 to the power 2. What answer you get in 5 square? You multiply by 5, then you will get 5 cube. So what is 5 cube? 5 into 5 square. So what is 5 square now? We have to, the stack is opened again. So 5 is already left over there. So 5 square is equal to 5 into 5 to the power 1. 5 to the power 1. So 5 to the power 1 again has to be calculated. Multiplied by 5 will get 5 square. Then 5 square multiplied by 5 will give you 5 cube. So what is 5 to the power 1? 5 into 5 to the power 0. Now 5 to the power 0 is 1. Everyone knows it. So there is no further stack open. There will be no further stack open. So 5 to the power 0 is 1. So there it terminates. Now children, if you are intelligent enough or anything, instead of taking the loop up to 0, you could have completed only up to 1, because that is also a base case. The base case is, there are two base cases. Either the number raised to the power 1 is itself, or the number raised to the power 0 is 1. Everyone knows it. This is a known fact, known case. So what we do is, when we say 5 to the power 0 is equal to, that is equal to 1, then there is no further stack opening. The base case has reached. Now what is 5 to the power 0? 1. 1 into 5 is 5. So what is 5 to the power 1? 5. 5 into 5 is 25. So what is 5 square? 25. 25 into 5, 125. So what is the answer of 5 cube? 125. So this way it moves in the principle of LIFO. Last memory, then second last memory, second last memory. Any task is left, it keeps on continuing. Now let's see the program and the working of this. This is only just the algo which I have explained. Now let's go to the program, the next one. The program is written in such a way that it is a returning type, and the name of the function is power. Children, you remember, you already know that there is already an inbuilt function, pow, mat.pow. Now in this, the returning type is double over there, and even the parameters are double over there. So what we did is, this is a user-defined function. User-defined function means I can define my own function in my own parameters and own returning type with my own name. So what I have done is, I have kept it as returning type is not double but int. The name of the function is not pow but it is power. And then I have used two integers, integer a comma integer b. That means a raised to the power b has to be calculated. A raised to the power b. Now what happens? A memory will open for this, because you have called the function, so a memory will open. In that memory, it will check whether the power is 0 or not. I've used the other condition, other base case to the power 0, because that is more easier, whatever it is. It may be, we may go to 1 or not, but 0 is convenient. So if the power is 0, it will return 1. It is not doing recursive over there. See children, in the third line, it is not doing recursive over there. Because a to the power 0, because b is 0, a to the power 0 is equal to 1. So it will terminate over there. Else, return, what it will return if it is not 0, that is power is something else apart from 0. What it will return a into power, means, see, again I am using the word power within the encapsulation. So it is a recursive technique. So a into power of a remains as is as a, but the power is reduced by 1, that is b minus 1. So if the power was 5 to the power 3, next time it will become 5 to the power 2, and the next time it will become 5 to the power 1, and so on till the base case is reached. I hope this program is clear to you so this can be done with the base case and a recursive case. Now children, yesterday I was talking that why recursion is so easy or whatever to understand. Because what is the advantages of recursion? Because it makes the complex program simpler and easier to understand. There is a small coding only to it. Yesterday I told you that I will cover in the second session. Maximum program, if there is only one base case and one recursive case, it can be done by your ternary method or ternary operator. How? The same program which is of 4 lines can be done in a single line, in one line. So in the body of the statement, what I have done is return b is equal to 0. This is the base case. So if the base case is 0, that means in the ternary, if the condition is true, then 1. If the condition is false, then the second one will follow. So here if b is 0, it will come as 1. And if b is not 0, it will come to power a into power of a b minus 1. So 1 will go in if and 1 will go in else. So this is the way in which you can represent a ordinary recursive function in a ternary way. So you can save your coding with the single line and it will become anyone, if you want to explain it to anyone, it becomes an easy method. So let's move on to the working of it. Now working. Suppose I put the value of a and b as 3 and 4. I'm calling the function. What answer should I get? I should get 3 to the power 4 is 81. How will it come? In the first line, I call the function 3 comma 4. A memory block, since it will be a very lengthy method, so I have used one below the other. Actually, each falling one below the other is a new memory block. So 3 comma 4, wherever there is a function call, wherever a function is called, a memory, separate memory is allotted to that function. So just imagine, children, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 memories are open, 5 memory blocks. The first memory block is power 3, 4. The second memory block inside that will be power 3, 3. And the third memory block which is open will be 3, 2. And the fourth one 3, 1. And the fifth one will be 3, 0. Further, there will not be any memory block because the base case is reached. So that is the memory block. Because it becomes little tedious for drawing, and you will get it in your net and all that about your drawing, or if it is in your school also, they might have told. Now let me explain this. A is 3 and B is 4. That is 3 to the power 4. Now A is 3, B is 4. B is not equal to 0. B is 4. So it is not equal to 0. It is not the base case. So it will follow the recursive case. So what is in the recursive case? A into power of A comma B minus 1. So what is the value of A? 3. 3 into power of, what is A? A is 3 again. B minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is what? 3. So again it will call power 3 comma 3. What does it mean? Now A is 3 and B is 3. Repeat the process again. That is 3 to the power 3. Okay. Now again A is 3, B is 3. So B is not equal to 0. B is not equal to 0. So again the recursive case will occur. So what it is? A into power of A comma B minus 1. That is 3 into power of 3 comma 3 minus 1 is 2. So what you get, a new recursive method, that is your power 3 comma 2. Now 3 comma 2, A is 3 and B is 2. Now 2 is again not equal to 0. So again recursive. So it will become 3 into power of 3 comma 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So again here again a recursive call is there where it is 3 to the power 1 has to be calculated. So what is 3 to the power 1? Actually it is 3. You can stop it over there. If I would have given over there that B is equal to 1, then it will return A. B is equal to 1, then return A. But here I have given if B is equal to 0, return 1. So it is 3 into power of 3 comma 1 minus 1 is 0. Now see over here in the last line. See over here in the last line. Normal of you. So what you see over here is 3 to the power 0 is 3 to the power 0 is 1. Now 3 to the power 0 is 1. So what happens, the base case is reached over there. So it comes as 1 into 3 into 3 into 3 into 3. So the answer is 81. 81 is your answer over there. 81. Okay. So here you have seen the working. You have seen the working of the power of a comma b, taking an example of 3 comma 4. 3 comma 4. Now let's come to the next question. Next slide. Now here I say that to find the GCD of two numbers. GCD of two numbers. Now GCD of two numbers means GCD of two numbers means 1 minute children. GCD of two numbers. What is GCD? GCD means common, your greatest common divisor. Greatest common divisor is the GCD of two numbers. Okay. So if you have heard children in the previous, in the class 6, 7, 8, you might have heard about the divisor method. This is the divisor method. Now if I explain the algo behind it in GCD. One is the divisor and one is the dividend. For example, if I take an algo of 8 comma 12, 8 comma 12. So what happens is P is 8 and Q is 12. Suppose I take two numbers, 8 and 12. I take P is 8 and Q is 12. Now if I use the algo over here, 8 is the divisor and 12 is the dividend. So 8 ones are 8 and the remainder is 4. And 8 comes as the dividend. Now what is the divisor in the second case which has to be repeated? It is the remainder of the divisor with the dividend. Dividend with the divisor, that is 4. And 8 comes into here. Again the same process follows. Again the same process follows. And then you have 4 to the 8 and the remainder is 0. Now that is the remainder between the divisor and the dividend is 0. And the 4 comes at its place. 4 comes at its place. That means P is equal to 0 and Q is equal to 4. So when P is 0, the answer is 4. The answer is your thing. This is the divisor method, what we call it as. Okay. So this is how is your, for even your greatest common divisor is also equivalent to your HCF. HCF and GCD both are same, that is by factor logic, highest common factor, and GCD is by your greatest common divisor. So let's do it by the programming method and then see how it is done. So let's go into the programming part of it. Programming part of it is, now we are coming to your GCD. I have taken as returning type is integer, int, and the name of the function which I have given for the recursion is GCD and integer P comma integer Q. Now children, I have to just give you some hints over here. Whenever you design a program or any code, always keep the variables or the name of the functions as short as possible. If it is short, then you can understand the program at a glance. I have seen in most of the places, they use a very long variable name. Like if I want to calculate simple interest, it is written simple underscore interest is equal to principal into time into rate divided by 100. If I would have been, I would say SI is equal to P into T into R divided by 100. Now at the side you can give the mnemonic codes. That is SI to store simple interest, P is to store the principal, T is to store the time, and R is to store the rate. R is to store the rate. Okay. So that way you can do it. So wherever you have seen in the programs which I have used very small identifiers or the names or very short. So here I have used as integer GCD integer p comma integer q, integer p comma integer q, integer p comma integer q. Now here I say that if p is equal to 0, then return q. If you see the previous example, it says that if p is equal to 0, return q. If the remainder of the divisor and the dividend is 0, it will return q. It will return q. Else what happens? If it is not the base case, then what will happen? What will happen if it is not the base case? Then it will return GCD. It will return GCD with the first one as the remainder, that is q mod p. Q mod p means the dividend mod divisor, comma p. Okay. So the remainder becomes the divisor and the divisor becomes the dividend. So this will keep on going till the value of p is equal to 0. When the remainder becomes 0, then the q is your answer for that. So if you have seen this program in 4 lines, I could have done it in just 1 line. I could have just done it in 1 line using a ternary operator. That is C. Again, see, 4-line coded program can be done in just 1 line. How it is? Integer GCD, integer p comma integer q. Return p is equal to 0 question mark. P is equal to 0 question mark. That is, the base case is reached or not reached. If it is reached, then what will be the returning? Q. If it is not reached, then what will happen in the recursive case? GCD q mod p comma p. So one is true and the other is false. So this is how you can convert a program by if else if. You can convert it to a ternary based. Now let's move on to the next question. Let's see the working of it. Okay, the working of the GCD. So if I take 8 and 12, that is P is 8 and Q is 12. P is 8 and Q is 12. Now what does it mean according to the program? P is not equal to 0. P is not equal to 0. Then what will happen? GCD 12 mod 8, because 12 is the dividend and 8 is the divisor. So 12 mod 8 comma 8. 8 because it is the divisor. So what is 12 mod 8 comma 8? That is GCD of 4 comma 8. That means it comes to P is equal to 4 and Q is equal to 8. P is equal to 4 and Q is equal to 8. Now again you see that 4 is not equal to 0. That is P is not equal to 0. Again it will not go as a base case. It will go as a recursive case. Then what happens over here? Again 8 mod 4. That is the divisor with the dividend with the divisor, comma, and then the divisor will come in the second place. So 8 mod 4 comma 4 is GCD 0 comma 4. Now here we reach the base case. That is P is 0 and Q is 4. So what is in my program? If P is equal to 0, return Q. So what is the value of Q in this function? 4. So the output will come as 4. So this is a working of a GCD or a HCF using recursive technique. Now children, can we go into the next program? I'll take up 1 or 2 programs. With one program with arrays and strings and other things. So let's go into the next program. The next program says to find the sum of the digits of the number. This is working with numbers. The logic will be same, children. If you do Armstrong number, any number logic, the answer will be same. So I've used a simple program where how can you extract digits from a number using recursion. This is only to extract digits from a number using recursive process. Now suppose if I want the sum of 492, I want the sum of the digits, that is 4 plus 9 plus 2, that comes to 15. Let's see the program. Okay, let's see the program. The program says integer sum Integer sum, integer n. Again, I've used very short names. I've not used sum of the digits or anything. I've used sum. Integer n. Now n is the number which has to be given to the function. If n is equal to 0, what is the sum of 0? Is 0. Return 0. If it is not 0, then what will happen? It will come to return n mod 10. See children, it is very important over here. N mod 10. What is n mod 10? The last digit of the number. The last digit plus sum of n divided by 10. Now when I do n divided by 10 in the parameter, that is 492 divided by 10, the last digit is removed. Last digit is removed. So you get it as 49. You get it as 49. So n mod 10 plus n divided by 10. So usually what we tell in the number logic is mod 10 divided by 10, mod 10 divided by 10 till the number is not equal to 0. This is how you extract digits from a number. Now if you want to have the sum of the square of the digits or the cube of the digits for Armstrong number or anything to the power of any the power of the digits of the number, you can do by this method. So instead of doing n mod 10, you do n mod 10 into n mod 10 plus sum of n divided by 10. So to extract the digit, we do n mod 10. To remove the digit, we do n divided by 10. So we say extract, remove, extract, remove, extract, remove. So this is how you do it like this. Now again, I've used the ternary method to show how a 4-coded program can become into a single code. So we say that integer sum integer n is, if n is equal to 0, what will be the answer? It will be 0. And if it is not 0, then what will happen? N mod 10 plus n divided by 10. So this is how you have got the true condition and the false condition. In the true condition, it will be the base case, and in the false condition, it will be the recursive case. So let's come to the working of this, children. Let's come to the working. The working of this. Working, suppose I've taken the number as 492. I've taken the number as 492. That means the value of n is 492. Since 492 is not equal to 0, 492 is not equal to 0. That means what I do over here is 492 mod 10. The recursive case will come. 492 mod 10 plus 492 divided by 10. So what is it? 492 mod 10 comes as what? 2. The last digit of 492 is 2 plus sum of 492 divided by 10. So what is 492 divided by 10 is 49. So I have to take out what is sum of 49 and add 2 to it. Sum of 4 plus 9 and add 2 to it. So what is sum of 49? Again 49 is the number n which is not equal to 0. So what we do is 49 mod 10 plus sum of 49 divided by 10. 49 divided by 10. So it comes as 9 plus sum of 4. 9 plus sum of 4. 49 mod 10 is what? The last digit is what? 9. 9 plus sum of 49 divided by 10 is what? 4. So you have got 4 plus 9 plus 2. Now sum of 4. Now the value of n is 4. 4 is not equal to 0. So we say 4 mod 10 plus sum of 4 divided by 10. Now what happens? 4 mod 10 is 4 and 4 divided by 10 is 0. So it becomes as sum of 0. Now see, the value of n becomes 0. That is, your base case has reached. So it becomes 0. So the base case has reached, so no recursive case. So it will return back by LeFo. So it will given 0 plus 4 plus 9 plus 2. That is equal to 15. So I hope, children, you have understood how the breakup of the stack is done. Okay, if it's clear, then again you can go back into the session after this and go and work out on the computers also and just check up. Let's move to the next one. Next one is we can move to the next program, that is to generate Fibonacci series. It's a very, very interesting program, children. And everywhere you see that this Fibonacci series do come in your competitive and other exams also. So Fibonacci series, actually we don't generate the Fibonacci series using recursion. We only generate the nth term of a Fibonacci series, nth term of a Fibonacci series. So what is the nth term? Suppose I want the nth term, like we know what is the base case in a recursion. The base case in a recursion is if n is equal to 1, the first number you know, the second number you know. First term, if n is equal to 1, it is 2 according to the example. If n is equal to 2, it is 3 we know according to the example. If it is not 1 and 2, then it will become, that is, it will become Febo, the second term plus the first term. So Febo n minus 2 plus Febo n minus 1. Now let's see the working of it. Let's see the working. The next line, working. We'll see the working of it, where I will be using the working and then showing you how it works. Okay. Now working of it. Now Febo 4, I've taken the fourth term in the series 2, 3, 5, 8 and 13. 2, 3, 5, 8 and 13. You know them? 2, 3, 5, 8 and 13. So what is the fourth term in the series? That is 8. 2, 3, 5, 8. So I have to get the answer 8 in the series 2, 3, 5, 8, 13 and so on. It keeps on going. So I need Febo 4. I need the fourth term. Now n is not equal to 1. It is not equal to 2. It is equal to 4. So what happens the recursive? Febo n minus 2. That is 4 minus 2 is 2 and 4 minus 1 is 3. So Febo 2 plus Febo 3. So Febo 2 is calculated plus what answer you get, you will add it to Febo 3 and that will be Febo 4. So what is Febo 2? N is 2, so base case is reached. So what is the second term in the series? 3. But what is Febo 3? Again, 3 is not the base case. So again it further divides into Febo 1 plus Febo 2. And what is Febo 1? 2. And what is Febo 2? It's 3. So finally there is no more function stacks open. So it will be 3 plus 2 plus 3, that is 8. So what you have noticed in the series, that the fourth term in the series, that is 2, 3, 5 and 8. So if I am finding out the fourth term, it is 8. For you children, suppose I want to generate the series by invoking the function Febo. Just I put a line, that is n is the limit which you want the number of terms. So I put a loop 1 to n and then write Febo I plus blank space or a comma, anything. So Febo I means it will print Febo 1, that is 2. It will print Febo 2, that is 3. Then it will print Febo 3, that is 2 plus the first term plus second term. Then Febo 4, that is the second term plus the third term, and so on. The series will be printed. So let's go to the next program. Let's go to the next program. To find the largest element in a array. To find the largest element. So I told you in the previous session that I will take one program in arrays, one in string and one in number logic. So in array, what happens is you pass the array and the lower index and the upper index. I've done integer max. You have seen the children, you have seen the program and study the program, where I have already done 2, 3 programs. So it will be very clear to you which is the base case and which is the recursive case. Okay. So what I do over here is, if maximum, I'll store the maximum in the value max. If the lower bound reaches the upper bound, that means lower bound is increasing, L plus 1 in the fifth line. So if it reaches the upper bound, then the answer is your A of the lower bound, where the lower bound is. Else what happens? Max will come to large of, since I have done the large of A, L plus 1. L plus 1 means the second value. First I have taken it as 0 and then it comes to the 1 of that. So 0 to 4, then 1 to 4, then 2 to 4, 3 to 4, like that it will go. It will match with A1, A0, A1, A2, A3, A4. Whichever is the maximum, it will return that, or it will return max of that. So let's go into the working of this, then you will understand better what it is. Let's go to the working. Working of this, okay. The working of this is, Suppose I have got the array A, which is written at the side 2, 34, 9, 7, 20, where L is equal to 0 and upper index is equal to 4, because there are number of elements which is 5. So 0 to 4, fourth is the last index and L is the first index. And I have stored the maximum value as 2 over here. That is the first index over here, max. Now, if you go through this, you find that the base case has not reached. So what will happen? The next function will be called, that is the max will become large A, L plus 1. The lower index was what? 0. So it will become from 0 to 4, it will become 1 to 4. Since 34 is greater than 2, max will change. Then it will become 2 to 4. Is 34 greater than 9? No, it will not change. Then you go from 3 to 4. That is 34 is greater than 7. No, it will not change. Then you are going from 4 to 4. That means 34 is greater than 20. No, it will not change. So it will come out of the loop where the lower index is equal to the upper index. And then the answer will return as 34. Okay. So now this I hope you have understood. Go through the program once again and do it on the computer. Now coming to the second last program, that is I want to do with the strings. One program with the strings. Show it with the strings. Okay. Now to reverse the string, how do you, same like how to extract characters, how to extract digits from a number, you should know how to extract characters from a word. This is the main logic. If you can understand the extracting of a characters from a word, easily you can do it. Now what happens is, I have taken two variables s and s1 as a global, that is instance variable. You can pass it in the function, but it will be too lengthy. So I have taken it as a global thing. I'll call it with 0. Now what happens? I'll call it with 0. Now extract, when I call it as 0, so 0 will move, it should go up to what? Till length. It should be length minus 1. So I is less than L s of length. That is, it should be less than the length of the string of the number s. That is string s. Now suppose if it is less, what I'll do, I will say extract I plus 1. Now here it works on augmented recursion. Augmented means there is a step behind after your recursive process which has to be done afterwards when the base case is reached. So you keep on going I plus 1, I plus 1, I plus 1. So the I increases and goes up to the maximum length or the last character of the word. So let's see the working of this and then you will understand what it is. The working of the string. Now, suppose if I've taken S is equal to India and S1 is a blank, null string. Extract 0. I've used the word I, a value of I as 0. Now 0 is not less than 4, which is less than L means size of the India is 5. So 0 is not less, so it will give extract 1, extract 2, extract 3, extract 4. Extract 3 and extract 4 over here. 3 and 4. So what happens over here is, this is what 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. It should come 3 and 4 over there. 3 and 4, extract 3, extract 4. Now when it comes to extract 0, the last line, that is your thing will be, when you come to the base case, that is extract 4, not extract 5, it will be extract 4. Then we have S1 is equal to blank space plus A. That was the last thing which was stored in the stack. So what happens is, first it will store your last index and the second last index, then the third last index, then the fourth last index, and then the fifth last index. So it will store A, then it will store A plus I, AI, then it will store AI plus D. D is the third character, so it will store D. Then AI plus D will store AIDN, and then AIDN plus I will store AIDNI. So if you make it into a block, then you can easily understand how does this work. Okay. So the same program, once again, I'm doing it by tail recursion. The same program. Same program is done by the tail recursion. Okay, tail recursion, the second last program. You'll do it by tail recursion. In tail recursion, what happens is I have taken the process before and then recursed it afterwards. In the previous program, what did I do? I had in the previous program, what I have done? I have done extract will come before and then the character will come in the previous program. But now what did I do? I have taken the process first and the extract afterwards. This is called tail recursion, and the previous one was called your augmented or your head recursion. Now let's go to the next one and then see. Now here one thing has to be remembered, that the value of I will be the index of the last character in the string, because we are going in the reverse direction, LIFO. When it goes from LIFO, you have to take L minus 1 to 0. And when you're going in FIFO, it goes from 0 to L minus 1. So this program goes from L minus 1 to 0. Let's see the working of it. Now, India is there and then S1 is blank. Then what I do over here is extract 4. The length of that is 5, so 5 minus 1 is 4. 4th is the index of the last character. So S1 is equal to S1 plus caret 4. So what is caret 4? A. So blank space plus A. This will be this. And then extract 3. Extract 3. That is why 3, because it is L minus 1. I minus 1. I minus 1. Now S1 will be equal to, already A is already there in S1. So A plus I, that is character at index 3 is I. So it will bring A and I, concatenate it and make it as AI. Now the index of this will decrease from 3, it will come to 2. So 4th was the last character, 3 was the second last character, 2 is the second character, and 0 will be the first character. Now AI will be added to D and it becomes AID. And then N is added, then it will become AIDN. And when it becomes to 0, what is the character at 0? I. So AIDNI. So again it will become India. So I've given 2 examples. So I've given 2 examples, children. One is by the tail recursion and one is by your augmented recursion. So you can use any one of them. So I have covered one program with numbers, one program with arrays, and one program with strings. Now I can take up some assignments. For your previous thing, whatever you want to do, the programs which you can do. So the assignments which I picked up was like conversion of decimal to any base, like decimal to binary, decimal to octal, decimal to hexadecimal. You can do this program as your assignment. Then Armstrong number, automorphic number, perfect number, prime numbers, these numbers can be used. The same logic, children. It is mod 10 divided by 10, mod 10 divided by 10. This is the main logic. Okay. And the third one assignment is binary search and sorting in arrays. So you've got binary search where the base case is if the mid value is equal to value, then it should halt. If mid value is not equal to value, then either the lower index will increase or the upper index will decrease. So this is your binary search technique. Then sorting, either you can do with bubble sort, selection sort, or insertion sort. Because I told you in the previous session, all iteration programs can be done by recursion, by using tail recursion. So you can use these methods and do it by tail recursion. And then the fourth one is, this is very, very important, children. Please do this. Output programs from the previous year's question papers. You have got the previous year's papers. Question number 3 in the compulsory part usually is an recursive output program. Usually it is a recursive output program. Please do them so that you can understand what, by my method, what is the base case, what is the recursive case, how each recursive case is called till the base case. If you do that, it is perfectly all right. Okay, children. And for this also, you don't have to go here. There is in the council website, there is analysis of people performance which you can consult. And the last one is stars of Hanoi. This is a very good example for recursion. Without stars of Hanoi, your recursion, if I do by iteration, it will take at least 5 to 6 pages or 100 codes. And in this, you can take only 3. Okay, children? So if any questions are there, I can take up that question. Can a recursive method be infinite even if there is a base case? Yes. In the previous session also I did tell you, a finite recursion can become, if there is a base case also, then also it will become infinite if it is not reaching that base case or not attaining the base case. That means if the base case value, you have to reach the base case value, you're moving against the base case value, that means even having a base case, then also it can be infinite. Which is a better option, recursion or iteration, to solve a Java program? Now children, it depends on the program. If it is a small coded program, use iteration because it's a fast process and less memory. But if it is a complicated program like TAS of Hanoi or a very big type of recursive looping is there, then use recursion. So it depends on the program type. If the program says a very big code, go in for recursion. If it's a small code, go in for iteration. What are the advantages of using recursion over iteration? This is the same thing like what is the advantage of recursion over iteration? Recursion only complexes the program into simpler. It breaks up into parts. A large thing can be broken up into parts. Like I told you, doing the work, climbing the steps 10 times yourself, you are climbing one step, giving it to the other, giving to the other. So the workload is distributed. So every time there is a thing, so you can have a recursive process to do it. So the advantage of recursion is to divide the program into smaller units. What is the difference between using direct recursion method and using indirect recursion? Practically, if you see, there is no difference between direct and indirect like that. But in terms of memory and time, the output will be same. In memory and time, you are opening a sub memory within a memory. That means within the memory allotted to you, again you are using a memory, and for the other function also you are using a memory. So every time a function is called, a memory is open and then a sub memory is open. So the memory size will be more if you are using indirect, but indirect you are using less. Yes. Yeah. I'll be taking up the last question. How do we stop an infinite recursive method? How can you stop an infinite recursive method? Now suppose you have compiled an infinite recursive and you have executed it. It keeps on going. In the new compiler, actually there will be an error after so many lines and then it says error. But if you want to stop it, you can use Control Alt and Delete, that is the task, or there is a line reset. You can press that and then halt the infinite recursion. Thank you very much, children. And I hope you have enjoyed this. And if there are any further queries, do write to us. We'll see that it is attended to. And thank you for viewing, and please give your comments on it. Thank you very much.